The violence, the aggression was just beyond anything that I'd seen. He'd barricade himself in his bedroom. He'd sleep with a baseball bat in his bed. It was just absolutely horrific. And the fear they put in those children is, I can't even begin to imagine. I know the fear that I felt for him, and the fear that I felt about what could happen at my house, what could happen to me, what could happen to my other children. And every night, worrying about him, thinking, is he actually going to come home alive? The longer a child's in that situation, the more brainwashed they become, the more involved they become, and the deeper they're in it. I'd never heard of exploitation. I knew nothing about it.
If you roll the clock back probably 20 years, 15 years, something like that, there was a lot of emphasis put on young people putting themselves in a position where they're at risk. Well, actually, they are being exploited. It's not their fault at all.
To simplify it, they're very much a pawn in these groups' hierarchies. So these children are often at the very bottom of organised crime groups.
I saw a change in behaviour, so it probably started when he was 13. He was big, really into his sport, well behaved at school. He was a bit of a cheeky chappy, but all the teachers loved him. That slowly started to stop, and he wouldn't come upstairs and see me anymore. He started just coming in the house and going straight into his bedroom. Progressively, I started to get phone calls from school saying he seemed disengaged. Then I started hearing rumours about being seen with older people. He was becoming more secretive. He stopped coming in on time, disappearing in the middle of the night. It culminated in him getting excluded from school. There was one person who he became involved with through other friends. I think he was probably actually exploited as a child as well. That person actually was the kind of the contact between him and who he started working for. He'd become addicted to crack cocaine. It's like living with a stranger that's incredibly aggressive. I was reporting him missing to the police constantly, and it culminated because I was at a loss as to what to do. I'd spoken with the place and I'd got him arrested. I thought doing that would give him the shock that he needed, that he just needed to get out of it. It didn't work. It didn't work. I had no idea at the time what he was selling, what he was being made to sell. All I know is that he was in and out of the house on a constant basis. I mean, he was so jumpy. You couldn't have a conversation with him. I couldn't get him to sit down and eat. At this point, he'd lost a huge amount of weight. He didn't wash. He was just... His phone constantly was ringing. As soon as that phone rang, that was it. He was up and out.
Sometimes our victims don't realise they're victims, so I'm your boyfriend. That kind of thing is sometimes a method that's used. Also, our victims will sometimes be befriended by other victims, but then have moved across that line to being a perpetrator.
There will be a lot of fear from families and parents thinking that actually, are they going to lose their children because in their mind they've failed to protect them? We
support parents as well as the victims because they're kind of like secondary victims, if you like, because it's a horrible thing that's happened to their child, and also it's a horrible thing that's happened to that family as well.
There was a real possibility that he was going to prison. I think that really shook him. He was about to turn 18 and he wasn't going to a young offenders, he was going to an adult prison. And it terrified him. I know he'd never say that, but I could see it. It scared him. That's when he kind of managed to break away. All his phones, everything was confiscated. Everything was taken away from him. And so he hid. He hid away, and he hid away for probably about 6 months. I had to get social services involved. Social services said they were the ones that actually come to me and said, "We think he's actually being exploited." And I said, "You know, what does that mean?" What I found out now is that he's so unhappy at school. I think he had a falling out with a group of friends, and then they're there to kind of pick up the pieces and draw you in, and and they take advantage of that vulnerability. They brainwash your child, so it's like living with a stranger, a violent stranger. The national referral mechanism is set up to understand better children that are exploited. It took from 2019 to 2021, and he was accepted on the conclusive grounds that he was an exploited child. And he so is legally recognised as a criminally exploited child. And it was a huge relief. Slowly but surely, I think it just started to click into his head that actually he wanted something more. He wanted a better life, and he wanted a different life. The small snippets of my son that I could see from a year ago are getting bigger and bigger. I don't think I'll ever see the full, because you can't go through something like that like he's been through it and be the same person. But what I do hope is as he gets older and matures and eventually has his own children, actually what it will do is give him a very different perspective on life and make him a better person for it. It's so important and that people hear from somebody who's experienced it, to make people realise that people whose children are exploited are not necessarily bad parents. We are not bad people, and the children that are exploited are not bad kids.